There are moments in military history that are never recorded in books, moments that happen in silence in the corners of training fields or briefing rooms, but leave a mark on everyone who witnesses them. This is one of those stories. The story of Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, the woman who stood in front of a colonel who thought they could humiliate her and changed everything with one move. The day began like any other morning at Fort Ridge. The air was cold and thick with tension. Soldiers lined up in rows, boots hitting the ground in rhythm. The colonel's voice echoed across the field, hard and sharp. He was a man who believed discipline was earned through fear. His name was Colonel Grant, a man with 30 years of service and an ego built taller than the barracks walls. Sarah stood at the end of the formation. Her uniform was clean, her stance perfect, but here he's told another story. Calm, sharp, and unreadable. She had joined the force 2 years earlier, transferring from a classified program no one dared to ask about. The whispers followed her wherever she went. Some said she was a linguist. Others said she was a fighter trained in silent operations. No one knew for sure. Colonel Grant never liked her. He saw her composure as arrogance. He thought a woman couldn't stand toe-to-toe with men in combat. His anger grew every time she outperformed his best soldiers. During weapons training, during endurance drills, she was always the last one standing. That day, he decided to make an example of her. Lieutenant Monroe, he barked, stepping closer. You think you're special, don't you? You think your little medals make you better than everyone here. Sarah didn't move. Her voice was steady. Oh, sir, I just do my job. That calm tone ignited him. He stepped closer, invading her space, his face red with rage. Your job, he spat. Your job is to follow orders, not to embarrass your superiors. The soldiers around them stood frozen, eyes darting between the colonel and Sarah. No one dared to breathe. Colonel Grant's hand twitched. He raised it fast, aiming to slap her across the face, but it never landed. In one fluid motion, Sarah's hand moved. There was a sharp crack like a twig snapping in the woods. The colonel's arm twisted the wrong way. He fell to one knee, groaning in pain, shock flooding his face. Silence fell across the field. Every soldier stood still, mouths open, eyes wide. The only sound was the wind cutting through the training yard. Sarah didn't flinch. She stepped back, her voice calm but firm. With all due respect, sir, never raise your hand to soldier again. 2 medics rushed forward, lifting the colonel to his feet. His face was pale, his pride shattered. The men who once feared him now looked at Sarah not with fear but with quiet awe. Later that day, Sarah was summoned to the command office. The base commander, General Morris, sat behind a heavy wooden desk. His eyes studied her for a long moment. Lieutenant Monroe, he began. Do you understand what you've done? Yes, sir, she replied. I defended myself. He leaned back, hands clasped. Colonel Grant has a broken forearm. He said, you attacked him without cause. Sarah looked straight ahead. He tried to strike me. Sir, I reacted on instinct. The general exhaled slowly. You're lucky, Lieutenant. There are reports from 5 witnesses confirming your story. You won't be punished. He paused, leaning forward. But you've made quite an impression. That night, the whispers grew louder. In the mess hall, soldiers who once ignored her now looked her way. Some smiled, some saluted quietly. Sergeant Reeves, a grizzled veteran, approached her with a smirk. Ma'am, he said softly, I've been in the Army 20 years. I've never seen anyone shut the colonel up like that. Sarah gave a faint smile. It wasn't my intention to make a scene. He chuckled. Maybe not, but you gave everyone here something we forgot we could have. Respect. Days passed and the story spread beyond the base. Officers whispered about the woman who broke the colonel's arm with one move. Some said it was luck. Others called it skill. Noon knew the truth that Sarah had been trained by a covert unit specializing in hand-to-hand combat and psychological resilience. She wasn't just strong. She was controlled, calculated, and unbreakable. Weeks later, an inspection team arrived from headquarters. They had heard the rumors and wanted to see the woman everyone was talking about. Sarah stood before them, her uniform pressed, her expression steady. One officer, a woman named Captain Lane, looked at her with admiration. You remind me of someone I served with, she said quietly. Someone who never let fear dictate her actions. Sarah nodded. Fear is just information, ma'am. You either use it or let it use you. That answer earned a faint smile from the captain. Months later, Sarah's unit was deployed overseas. The mission was dangerous, a covert extraction in hostile territory. She led the team through rough terrain under heavy fire and brought everyone home alive. When the report reached General Morris, he called her into his office again. You've done well, Lieutenant, he said. There's talk of a promotion, But tell me if you could change that day with the colonel, would you? Sarah thought for a moment. Here he's distant. No, sir, that day wasn't about me. It was about showing that respect in uniform goes both ways, regardless of rank or gender. The general nodded slowly. You may have just changed the way this base operates. When Colonel Grant returned months later, his arm had healed, but his pride hadn't. He avoided Sarah, never daring to look her in the eye. The man who once believed authority came from shouting now understood the strength of quiet power. The new recruits often whispered about her. Some said she could disarm a man before he blinked. Others said she never even raised her voice. To them, she was more than a soldier. She was a symbol. One evening after training, a young cadet approached her. Ma'am, he said nervously, is it true what they say that you broke a colonel's arm? Sarah smiled faintly. It's true that sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, but violence isn't strength. Control is. The cadet nodded, eyes wide, understanding something deeper than he could put into words. Years later, when Sarah retired, her story had become part of Fort Ridge's unofficial history. Soldiers still spoke of the day the colonel tried to slap her and she snapped his arm. Not out of anger, but out of principle. They remembered her calm voice, her steady eyes, and the unshakable dignity she carried. She didn't just change a man, she changed a system. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.